Verse 20, then she said, I desire one small petition of thee. I pray thee, say me nay. Say me not nay. In other words, don't tell me no. And the king said unto her, ask on, my mother, for I will not say thee nay. Now that wasn't a very smart thing to say in this situation, because he didn't even know what it was. Here he's answering something before he knows what it's about. So he spoke too soon. Verse 21, and she said, let Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah thy brother to wife. And King Solomon answered and said unto his mother, and why dost thou ask Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Ask for him the kingdom also, for he is mine elder brother, even for him, and for Abiathar the priest, and for Joab the son of Zeruiah. See, Joab, David's old captain of the host there, he and Abiathar the priest threw in with Adonijah behind him for the kingdom when they tried to take it over before King David made Solomon king. Then King Solomon, verse 23, then King Solomon sware by the Lord, saying, God do so to me and more also, if Adonijah have not spoken this word against his own life. In a kingship, in a land of rule like this, you don't have somebody come in. Usually most kings that came to power killed all their rivals. Even their, like in this case, his elder brother. Well, that's a rival. He already tried to take the kingdom from his dad. And so you can understand what it's all about here. Verse 24, now therefore as the Lord liveth, that which hath established me and set me on the throne of David my father, and who hath made me an house as he promised, Adonijah shall be put to death this day. Adonijah is the one that spoke out, because he had made peace with him initially, but David had warned him about this very thing. And David had told him from the Lord the many things that he needed to do. And King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he fell upon him that he died. Here Benaiah took the effort and the reins, so to speak, and went and killed his older brother, this Solomon's older brother. And verse 26. Now, remember that the other two that were involved with this uprising and trying to take the kingdom was Abiathar the priest and Joab. So let's go on here in verse 26. And unto Abiathar the priest said the king, get thee to Anathoth unto thine own fields, for thou art worthy of death. But I will not at this time put thee to death, because thou bearest the ark of the Lord God before David my father, and because thou hast been afflicted in all wherein my father was afflicted. And so he went through thick and thin with David his father. And so at this time he wasn't going to kill him as he deserved, but he told him to go back to his farmland where he came from and stay there and take care of that and stay out of things. Just because of the things how well he had served his dad. So Solomon thrust out Abiathar from being priest unto the Lord, that he might fulfill the word of the Lord which he spake concerning the house of Shiloh. So this was the last heir from Eli, and this was spoken to him in Shiloh. Look at 1 Samuel 2. 1 Samuel 2, there, verse 27. Way back when Samuel was little, just being a child, and he was under Eli's tutoring there at the temple. In verse 27 of 1 Samuel 2, and there came a man of God unto Eli, that was the priest then, and said unto him, thus saith the Lord, did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? And did I choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer upon my altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me? Yes, he did. That's a rhetorical question. And did I give unto the house of thy father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel? Yes. Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and at mine offering, which I have commanded in my habitation, and honors thy sons above me? Hophni and Phinehas, if you remember that, and how the Lord smote them. To make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel, my people. They were taking advantage of the offerings, and it says the only person in the Bible that talks about Eli said he was heavy. You remember, he was a fat man, and he sat, and then remember he fell backwards when he heard of Hophni and Phinehas, and died, broke his neck. So here, this is what God had done for him, but he didn't restrain his sons, and he didn't do anything with them and train them the way they should have gone. Instead, they went against God. And so God has judged them now. Verse 30, wherefore the Lord God of Israel saith, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever. But now the Lord saith, be it far from me, for them that honor me I will honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. And so here Eli and his sons were going to be lightly esteemed because they did not honor God. We see that time and again in the Bible, how God sets before you two choices. Choose life or choose death. What are you going to choose? Are you going to choose the blessings of God and do what he says, or are you going to choose the cursing of God and don't do what he says? We see that time and again. We see it in Joshua. We see it back in Exodus. They had problems with all that with people. Behold, the days come, verse 31, behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm and the arm of thy father's house, that there shall not be an old man in thine house. He's telling Eli that it's going to, his whole family is going to die, and they're not going to be represented anymore in the Levitical priesthood. And thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation, and all the wealth which God shall give Israel. And there shall not be an old man in thine house forever. And the man of thine whom I shall cut off from mine altar shall be to consume thine eyes and to grieve thine heart, and all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age. And then he has a sign here in verse 34, and this shall be a sign unto thee, that shall come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas, and one day they shall die, both of them. And then he's going to raise up a priest. And that happened. And so now here in Kings, we see that this is the last of that line in verse 27 of 1 Kings 2, that he might fulfill the word of the Lord, which he spake concerning the house of Eli in Shiloh. You know how many years that was before that took place? See, we were talking about that last hour again, how God's time is not our time, and we get impatient. And many times the actual happening of a prophecy or something that God says is going to happen happens after the people he gave it to are passed on, are dead, they're buried. And so then it happens. So don't, when you say, well, I'm going to pray about this, and the next day you don't get the answer you like, so you say, well, God just doesn't like me, I guess, or whatever. Excuse me? God is God. You're just a human being that is saved by his grace, not yours. And so we see that concerning the house of Eli. And so now, that takes care of a couple of them. Now we're going to go ahead with verse 28. We're going to see what happened with Joab here. He was the third one that was in the uprising to take over the kingdom of God. Tidings came to Joab, for Joab had turned after Adonijah, though he turned not after Absalom. See, Absalom went and tried to take the kingdom before from David, before Adonijah. And during that time, Joab and Abiathar stayed with King David. Then he turned not after Absalom, and Joab fled under the tabernacle of the Lord and caught hold on the horns of the altar. So Joab, who has been the captain of the host all through David's career, he now is in the limelight here, as he knows the wicked things that he did when he was the captain of the host, the things that were against God. And so in 1 Kings 2, verse 28, we see that Joab knew what his sentence was going to be. The king was going to get rid of him. If you recall, David several times as king tried to set him aside. He put Amasa in his place, and then Amasa got killed by Joab. And so you see how these things go, and how Joab, it goes on here as we see. We don't even have to turn back anywhere to see the past of Joab. But look at this as we continue on, and what Joab did. Verse 29, it was told King Solomon that Joab was fled unto the tabernacle of the Lord. Behold, he is by the altar. Then Solomon sent Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, saying, Go fall upon him. And Benaiah came to the tabernacle of the Lord, and said unto him, Thus saith the king, Come forth. And he said, Nay, but I will die here. And Benaiah brought the king word again, saying, Thus saith Job, and thus he answered me. And so Job is holding out there, and the king said unto him, does as he hath said, and fall upon him, and bury him. He's saying, tell him, Benaiah, go ahead and kill him at the altar. It's fine. He deserves to die. He needs to die, and then bury him. And then it says, why? That thou mayest take away the innocent blood which Joab shed from me and from the house of my father. Joab had innocent blood on his hands when he disregarded the king's orders, when he did things that he wasn't supposed to do against the king, and then slaying people in peacetime. Verse 32, And the Lord shall return his blood upon his own head, who fell upon 2 men more righteous and better than he, and slew them with the sword. And that was in time of peace. He slew them with the sword as in war. And my father David, not knowing thereof, to wit, Abner, the son of Ner, captain of the host of Israel. David had already made peace with Abner, and Abner was bringing all of Israel together behind King David after King Saul died. And this was all right. And Abner, after having made peace with the king, then Joab went out and slew him privately. Well, in the gate, he said, pretended that he's his friend. Oh, it's nice to see you. You know, it's so good. And then he killed him. In peacetime, after peace had been made by the king and Abner. He was the captain of the host. And then Amasa, the son of Jether, captain of the host of Judah. So he killed, when David put Amasa in charge of the soldiers of Judah, Joab killed him in time of peace. 2 men that were more righteous and better than he, and he slew him with the sword. Well, now he's being slain with the sword by Benaiah, and I've always thought about that. Here's the head of the host, the great captain and leader and strong man, and here Benaiah goes in and is able to subdue him. He didn't fight, apparently, just stayed on the altar and let him kill him. And the Lord shall return, verse 32, his blood upon his own head, who fell upon 2 men righteous and better than he, and slew them with the sword, my father David not knowing thereof, to wit, Abner the son of Ner, captain of the host of Israel, and Amasa the son of Jether, captain of the host of Judah. Their blood shall therefore return upon the head of Joab, and upon the head of his seed forever. Remember, he's always noted as one of the sons of Zeruiah. So Joab was a cousin to Solomon. He was a nephew to King David. It was his sister's family. And this is the last now of them to be taken. but upon David, and upon his seed, and upon his house, and upon his throne shall there be peace forever from the Lord. So Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, went up and fell upon him and slew him, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. And so we see that he is now taken care of. Solomon is taking care of all these problems in his kingdom and put them aside. We had Adonijah, and then we have one more that we'll be looking at, is Joab. And so the king, after that, king put Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, in his room over the host, and Zadok the priest did the king put in the room of Abiathar. And so now we have Solomon putting Zadok in as the priest, the head priest, the high priest that they had, and Benaiah as the captain of the host. Well, Joab and all the rest of them are dead now, and so they go on with a whole new kingdom. And Solomon is solidifying that kingdom. One more man here that he needs to take care of. And the king sent and called for Shimei, and said unto him, Build thee an house in Jerusalem, and dwell there, and go not forth thence any whither. Now, if you know what happened with Shimei, when David was leaving Jerusalem, as he was being ousted as king, so to speak, a coup had taken place. Shimei was the man that came out and started cursing him and shouting at him as a bloody man and all this stuff. He was part of the group of King Saul's family who believed that David had a conspiracy to take the throne from King Saul. Now, if you read the Bible and see the way everything went, it was totally the opposite. Isn't that the way things get twisted around today? I mean, we see such things, and you don't know, what's the truth? Well, here David was being ousted by his own family, and so it just gets so much. They say, well, King Saul, this is a conspiracy that David made because David killed Goliath, and David was head of the armies of King Saul and all, and so he arranged this coup to kill Saul and all this stuff. He didn't. If you look at what David did, how many times did he have the opportunity to kill King Saul or one of his men to kill him? And David says, no, you don't touch the Lord's anointed. Leave him alone. God will take care of him. And then, of course, he and his sons died in battle. But see how things get twisted around? Somebody's got a conspiracy. Be careful all these conspiracy theories. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that have basis, too. And of course, the mainstream of the world doesn't want true conspiracies to go on, do they? Because it goes against them. And so we have governments and we have medical people and all these things that are being put in a big mess. What can you say? And so that's just the way it is. I've got to be careful what I say, Yeah, it's a big mess in the world. But they're turning things around, twisting it around. And so we see that here, that's what's happened with Shimei. And we won't necessarily turn over there to, if you want to research that more, 2 Samuel 16 and 19 there, you can look at that. But how he went along and he was throwing dirt and rocks at David and his family as they left Jerusalem and cursing him and all that. So they went on. Now Shimei is David. When David came back from the coup as king, Shimei met him at the crossing of Jordan and apologized to him and asked him to not kill him because he was sorry for what he had done. Well, David promised him and swore to him then that I won't kill you with the sword now. And it was really left to his next king to take care of that. And in wisdom, Solomon sets this up. So he sent Shimei and told him, build a house in Jerusalem and dwell there, stay there. Verse 37, for it shall be that on the day that thou goest out and passest over the brook Kidron, thou shalt know for certain that thou shalt surely die. Thy blood shall be upon thine own head. And so he put strict guidelines on him. He was in house arrest, so to speak. Couldn't leave Jerusalem. If he left Jerusalem and went over the brook Kidron out of the city, then he was going to die. That was the pronouncement that King Solomon gave him. And Shimei said unto the king, verse 38, the saying is good, as for my lord the king hath said, so will thy servant do. And Shimei dwelled in Jerusalem many days. How many days? Well, verse 39 says, it came to pass at the end of 3 years. That's quite a few days. He was a good boy. He did what he's supposed to, stayed in his home there. That 2 of his servants of Shimei ran away unto Achish, son of Maacah, king of Gath, and they told Shimei, saying, behold, thy servants be in Gath. Now, again, after having studied through Samuel, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and seen the part of Gath that Gath played and Achish and all these things, and now you see it again used here. To me, it's just phenomenal. So here's a guy David went to Achish, remember, and wanted to be part of his army, so to speak, as he was working against him from inside. And Achish was all for David. But then Shimei was down there. His servants went down there. And so Shimei goes down, verse 40, Shimei arose, saddled his ass, went to Gath to Achish to seek his servants. And Shimei went and brought his servants from Gath. And it was told Solomon that Shimei had gone from Jerusalem to Gath and was come again. The king sent and called for Shimei, and said unto him, did I not make thee to swear by the Lord, and protested unto thee, saying, know for a certain on the day thou goest out and walkest abroad any whither, that thou shalt surely die? And thou saidst unto me, thy word have I heard is good. The word that I have heard is good. Why then hast thou not kept the oath of the Lord and the commandment that I have charged thee with? So he's putting it right straight out there. The sentence was given before you ever did it. Now you did it, and so the sentence is going to be fulfilled. In verse 44, the king said moreover to Shimei, thou knowest all the wickedness which thine heart is privy to, that thou didst to David my father. Therefore the Lord shall return thy wickedness upon thine own head. And King Solomon shall be blessed, and the throne of David shall be established before the Lord forever. So the king commanded Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, which went out and fell upon him, that he died. And the kingdom was established in the hand of Solomon. Now, it looks like a good start, doesn't it? But many of you probably know the end of Solomon, how the next thing he does is go down to Pharaoh and gets a heathen woman, brings her in and starts getting his heart tore away from the Lord and so forth. And then he puts all these women up that bring on all their false gods and all this stuff. And Solomon, then discouraged, fell from the Lord and went his own way, the way of the world. How sad to see that. Listen, you make